Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 760A, and today's date is September 7th, 2015, and the title of this episode is China Accelerates Dumping of Treasuries as Elite Prepare for the Collapse. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Let's head out right to the UK. Now, we understand in the UK, they're trying to keep the idea that everything is fine there. The economy is fine there. Same thing going on throughout Europe. It's not just isolated to one area. Actually, if you look at all the private Western central bank countries, we're all seeing the same theme running throughout, that there is a recovery. We just need to create or print more money. But don't worry, everybody. Everything is going to be just fine. But when we delve into these economic numbers and we look closely at it, we see that things are starting to rapidly fall apart, not get better. I mean, think about this for a second. Back in 2013, the Eurozone, at that time in August, was telling us that they were recovering from the Great Recession from 2008. Has anything changed from 2013? I mean, look at the situation right now. Has it changed for the better, or has it gotten worse? It has gotten worse. Unemployment has not come down. I mean, they were talking that they were going to cut unemployment in half. It didn't happen. We have more war now. We have more problems. Back in 2013, they weren't even printing / creating money at that time, monetizing the debt. They weren't even doing that. So going forward right now, we see everything that they've been talking about, how, the GDP numbers, the economic situation, it's going to get better. It hasn't. Things have gotten worse. In the UK, a leading business group is warning on Monday that it's going to have to slash the outlook for the sector of the UK manufacturers. The trade group is saying we're going to have to go from 1.5% to 0.7% because of what's happening in the Eurozone. Of course, they're saying it's the renewed crisis in the Eurozone and what is happening in the emerging markets in China. Now, of course, they always bring China into this because they need someone to blame, and this is what we're seeing right now. Now, here in the United States, we have the illusion that everything is fine, that we're in this fantastic recovery. They came out on Friday with the unemployment numbers of 5.1%. I mean, this is the lowest since April of 2008. But do we actually have anything close to full employment right now? I mean, they're telling us that we do. Of course not. The truth is that the only way they've been able to get the official unemployment rate to steadily go down over the past few years is to get rid of those people who are still looking for jobs. The fact is that 220,000 more Americans entered the workforce in August. According to the survey, 196,000 more Americans were employed. In the real world, this would result in the unemployment rate going up. Not in this strange world of central bankers. They brought the unemployment down. They expect us to believe that 261,000 Americans, of their own free will, decided, you know what? I just don't want to be in the workforce. I don't want that job. Because they don't want to pay their bills. They don't want to feed their families. They don't want to keep a roof over their heads. Yeah, they don't want any of that. This is how ridiculous it is getting at this point. What they're throwing at us doesn't even make sense anymore. Just listen to these statistics, where we have the American citizen and we have the illegals. In August, a whopping 698,000 native-born Americans lost their jobs. This drop was offset. Now, before I say the next part here, I just want to say these jobs were really well-paying, good jobs. And we know from corporations, from small corporations, large and small, we're seeing a lot of layoffs, a lot of people losing their jobs, and these are good jobs, very difficult to find other jobs. but they were able to offset the numbers with about 204,000. And these are foreign-born Americans who got a job in the month of August. These are the low-paying jobs. So what do we see here? Well, since December 2007, according to the Household Survey, only 790,000 native-born American jobs have been added. Contrast that with 2.1 million foreign-born Americans who have found a job over the same time period. This is 166% more foreign-born workers added. And what jobs are they taking? The low-paying work. We're getting rid of the high-paid jobs, and we have all these low-paying jobs where basically they're taking up the slack. So what's happening here in America? Well, we've been seeing it for a long, long time. All the jobs, all the good jobs, are being sent overseas. What do we have left here? Waitresses, bartenders, and I have nothing against these jobs whatsoever, or the people who do it. This is hard work. But this is not a manufacturing, production country anymore. A country cannot survive on waiters and bartenders. It just can't happen. And we know at this point, this economy cannot be sustained on this. It will not work. And we see across the economy all the bubbles that they set up. The student loan bubble, the housing bubble, the stock market bubble, the Treasury bond bubble, the automobile bubble is about to pop. I mean, if we look at the automobile bubble right now, the automakers, they just unleashed a massive production surge to keep the dream alive, with inventories at a record high, and this has risen for 61 straight months in a row. This would be fine if sales were keeping up, but guess what? They are not. Sales are not keeping up with the inventories. Edmunds.com estimates that around 28% of new vehicles this year will be leased. This is a new record pace, which means 13.4 million vehicles leased over the past 3 years in the U.S., compared with just 7 million in the 3 years to 2011. Are set to spark a massive surplus of high-quality vehicles. So, we're going to see inventories of luxury high-quality used cars at record highs, and prices are tumbling. We just saw a surge in production and channel stuffing into dealer lots. What comes next? Well, that's going to be a production slump. Manufacturing's going to decline. I mean, think about what's happening here. Everything they're doing to keep this bubble alive is going to come to an end, just like the housing bubble did in 2008. Just like the stock market bubble in 2008 came to an end. All these bubbles that the central bank has inflated will pop. And we're starting to see that. Because the stock market right now, where it was hitting all-time new highs, has come down dramatically. Of course, the stock market is closed today. It's a holiday. But we've seen in the last couple of days, the stock market dropped about 2,000 points. And everyone's thinking, oh, this is the crash. No. This is not the crash at all. This is the warning signal that the big one is about to happen. Remember, the stock market is really based on the revenue of companies, on how well they're doing. And if we really look closely at these corporations, we see that these companies' revenues, they're terrible. Now that 495 of the S&P 500 companies have reported second quarter earnings, something has become abundantly clear. 2015 is going to be a nasty year for corporate revenues. This is why they're laying off all these people. Because they already know it's going to be absolutely awful. Blended revenue for the S&P 500 and companies dropped 3.4% in the second quarter, according to FactSet. Blended because it includes estimates for the 5 companies that have not yet reported. This follows the first quarter during which reported revenues also declined. The last time year-over-year revenues declined 2 quarters in a row was in the second quarter and third quarter of 2009. Yes, that's right, during the Great Recession. And here we are in the recovery. So we're seeing the same thing that happened during the Great Recession. Think about that for a second. Analysts liberally blame the strong dollar. It's convenient. But numerous companies that mostly benefit from the strong dollar, such as GM, still reported shrinking revenues in the quarter. And even though they're continually producing autos, channel stuffing, they're still seeing down revenues. Other companies that are seeing revenues that are declining. Caterpillar, negative 13%. Dow Chemical, negative 13%. MetLife, negative 12%. Microsoft, negative 4%. Intel, negative 5%. International Paper, negative 21%. JP Morgan Chase, negative 3%. Johnson Controls, negative 11%. And the list goes on and on and on. IBM, down minus 15%. This has nothing to do with the dollar, with the weather, with China. Because when China was doing well, they blamed China. When China was not doing well, they blamed China. When the dollar was weak, they blamed the dollar. When the dollar gets strong, they blame the dollar. When the weather is cold, they blame the weather. When it's sunny out, they blame the weather again. They just keep switching around what they're blaming. The only thing they're not blaming is this economy. Think about that for a second. The only thing they don't blame is the economy. And that is the problem. The people are tapped out. The people aren't working. The people don't have jobs. Yeah, you can keep throwing the people off the unemployment statistical numbers. But guess what? They're still not working. And if they're not working, they're not spending. If they're not spending, guess what? Retail is going to contract. Manufacturers are going to contract. Inventories are going to rise because no one is buying the merchandise. Revenues are going to fall. We're seeing 4 quarters in a row of declining year-over-year revenues. That sort of long-lasting revenue recession would take us back to the bowels of the financial crisis. We are back where we started. Jim Rickards is out there saying the U.S. economy is weak right now and getting weaker. It is not getting better. And you think that the stock market right now has come down, and a lot of people thinking that this is the crash, and they're calling it the crash. But guess what? This is not the crash, people. This is a modest pullback from the all-time highs. The S&P 500 is still overvalued by 92%. It is time to assume crash positions because we have not experienced anything approaching a crash thus far. We have hit nothing but a tiny little air pocket. Dr. Hussman points out something very clear here. Market crashes do not happen at the peak. There is usually an initial 10 to 14% decline as the smart money, the elite, the insiders, exit stage left. This is what they're doing. So the smart money right now is exiting the market. This is why we see the dip right now, this small little air pocket. And what we're going to see right now, after this, as sentiment falls, as people don't know what's happening, we will then see all hell break loose in the market. And the time is coming. It is approaching, and you need to be ready. The elite right now, they've been preparing for some time. We mentioned this quite a while ago, where they're building airstrips to bring in supplies. A lot of them are going to New Zealand. They're pulling their money out of the stock market. It is all happening right now. And right now, like we talked about this before, Robert Johnson, president of the Institute of New Economic Thinking, told people at the World Economic Forum in Davos that many hedge fund managers were already planning their escapes. They're getting prepared and ready. They're getting ready. You need to get ready. And we see China at this point, they're dumping treasuries at a record pace. It's accelerating. We talked about how they dumped about 94 billion in treasuries in 1 month. Actually, that number is now closer to 115 billion. They're getting rid of the private Western Central Bank treasuries right now. They're unwinding, removing themselves from the private Western Central Bank countries, especially the U.S. They don't want to be a part of this because they see what's happening. The entire system is collapsing. I mean, we're seeing an economic war right now, which is now teetering on a world war. It's coming close to this. And everyone at this point needs to be prepared and ready for what is coming. You need to make sure you have food preps, medical supplies, a weapon to protect your family, gold, silver. If you can't afford gold, just get silver. Make sure you have some cash on hand. You will need this. If you haven't started doing this, I would start right now. You can go to Sam's Club, BJ's, Supermarket, Amazon, whatever you want to use, go ahead and do it. You can go to lifereliance.com. They have everything pre-made, food, seed, first aid, water, bug out bags, you name it, they have it. You can customize it and have it sent to you if you don't know what to do. So there are many different ways to do this. And there are many different ways to get prepared. And you need to start now. Thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.